I was 15 the first time I realized something was different. Not wrong, not yet, just different. Had been in my life for as long as I could remember. He was my dad's best friend, the one who showed up unannounced, opened the fridge like he owned the place, and stayed late into the night talking about things I didn't understand back then. To me, he had always been familiar, safe, predictable, until he wasn't. It happened on a random evening, nothing special, nothing worth remembering except I never forgot it. I had just come back from school, still in my uniform, my bag hanging lazily off one shoulder. I walked into the living room expecting noise, my dad laughing too loudly, the TV blaring, something normal. Instead, it was quiet. Adrian was there alone, sitting on the couch, reading. That alone felt strange. I had never seen him like that before, still, focused, almost, distant from everything around him. He looked up when I walked in, and smiled. Hey, kid. I don't know why that word stuck with me that day. Maybe it was the way he said it, absent-minded, soft, like he wasn't really thinking about it. Or maybe it was because, for the first time, I didn't want to be one. I'm not a kid, I muttered, dropping my bag. He raised an eyebrow, amused. Oh, since when? Since always. That made him laugh. And something about that laugh, it did something to me. I couldn't explain at the time. I sat across from him, pretending to scroll through my phone. But really, I was watching him. The way he leaned back into the couch. The way his sleeves were rolled up just enough to reveal his forearms. The way he looked completely at ease in a house that wasn't his. Something on my face. He asked suddenly. I froze. What? No. He smirked slightly. You've been staring at me for the past 5 minutes. Heat rushed to my face. I have not. He hummed, clearly not convinced. I looked away quickly, heart beating faster than it should have. It didn't make sense. Nothing about it did. He was older, much older. He was my dad's best friend. He was off limits in every possible way. But none of that stopped the feeling that had just quietly taken root. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying the moment over and over again. His voice, his laugh, the way he noticed me looking. It felt embarrassing, confusing, and strangely exciting. I told myself it would pass, that it was just a phase, something stupid and temporary, that I would wake up the next day and feel normal again. But the next time he came over, I noticed him again, and the time after that, and the time after that. It didn't fade. It grew. By 16, I started paying more attention to myself when I knew he'd be around. Nothing obvious, just small things. Fixing my hair, choosing what to wear more carefully, lingering a little longer in the same room as him, watching how he interacted with others and realizing he didn't treat anyone quite the way he treated me. He listened to me, not politely, not like adults listen to kids, but like what I said actually mattered. You think too much, he told me once. I frowned. Is that a bad thing? He shook his head. No, just means you're going to have a hard time turning it off. I didn't understand what he meant back then, but I remembered it. I remembered everything he said. At 17, I started comparing. Boys my age felt loud, immature, predictable. They tried too hard, said too much. None of them had that quiet confidence he carried without effort. None of them made me feel seen the way he did without even trying. And that's when the truth started forming in the back of my mind. This wasn't a phase. It wasn't going away. But I also knew something else. I could never say it. Not then. Not like that. So I buried it, pushed it down, labeled it as something I would grow out of. Because that's what people did with feelings like this. They outgrew them, moved on, forgot, except I never did. The years passed. I left home, went to university, met new people, dated, laughed, lived. But somehow, every road I took circled back to the same place, to the same man, to the same feeling I thought time would erase. At 24, I finally understood something I had been avoiding for years. I hadn't outgrown him. I had grown into him. And that realization, it didn't scare me. It clarified everything. Adulthood was supposed to fix it. That's what everyone says, right? You grow up, you gain perspective, and suddenly the things that once felt overwhelming become manageable, smaller, easier to forget. That didn't happen to me. If anything, the distance made it worse. University was loud in a way my life had never been before. New faces, new voices, new attention. For the first time, I wasn't just someone's daughter. I was me, independent, visible, interesting enough for people to notice. Men noticed. At first, it felt exciting. There was Daniel Brooks, charming, confident, the kind of guy everyone liked within 5 minutes of meeting him. He took me out on spontaneous late-night drives, played music too loud, made everything feel like a scene from a movie. You overthink everything, he told me once, laughing as I hesitated over something small. The words hit me harder than they should have, because I had heard them before. Just not like that. Not careless, not dismissive. With Adrian Cole, it had sounded like understanding. With Daniel, it sounded like irritation. That was the first crack. Then there was Marcus Hale. Older, more grounded. The safe choice according to everyone around me. He remembered dates, opened doors, said all the right things at all the right times. You deserve consistency, he told me one evening, his hand warm around mine. I nodded, because he wasn't wrong. But consistency isn't the same as connection. And every time he looked at me like he had already figured me out, I thought about someone who never assumed, someone who listened, paused, and responded like every word mattered. I thought about Adrian. Again, always Adrian. I tried not to. I really did. I told myself it wasn't fair to the people I was dating, to myself, even to him. He wasn't part of my life like that. He had never given me a reason to hold on to this. So why couldn't I let it go? The answer came slowly, quietly, in moments I didn't expect. Like the night I got into an argument with Daniel. It wasn't even serious, just something small that spiraled into something bigger. You're impossible to read, he snapped. It's like you're comparing me to someone I don't even know. The words landed too close to the truth. I didn't deny it. And that ended things. Or the afternoon Marcus sat across from me, studying my face like he was trying to solve a puzzle. You're here, he said slowly. But you're not really here. I looked down at my hands. He wasn't wrong either. I don't think I'm what you're looking for, he added gently. And for once, I didn't argue. Because I knew exactly what I was looking for. Him. Adrian Cole wasn't just a memory anymore. He had become a standard. A quiet, unspoken measure no one else could reach. Not because they weren't good enough, but because they weren't him. I tried dating again after that. Different faces, different personalities, same result. It always ended the same way, with me pulling back, losing interest, feeling that subtle, persistent disappointment I couldn't explain out loud. You're picky, my friends told me. You'll find someone eventually. I smiled, nodded, pretended that was true. But deep down, I knew something they didn't. I had already found someone. Just not in a way that made sense. The realization didn't come all at once. It built slowly, layer by layer, date by date, disappointment by disappointment. Until one night, sitting alone in my apartment, it finally settled into something undeniable. I wasn't holding onto a childhood crush. I wasn't stuck in the past. I wasn't confused. I was choosing him. And that changed everything. Because a crush is something you wait to outgrow. But a choice is something you act on. I stared at my phone that night longer than I should have. His number was still there, untouched, unchanged, like a door I had never opened but never closed either. My thumb hovered over the screen, heart racing, mind louder than it had ever been. What are you even going to say? What if he shuts you down? What if this ruins everything? Then another thought cut through all of it. Clear, simple, unavoidable. What if you do nothing and regret it for the rest of your life? That was the moment everything shifted. I didn't press call. Not yet. But for the first time, I knew I would. And when I did, nothing would stay the same. There's a difference between thinking about something and deciding to act on it. I lived in that space for days, maybe weeks, going back and forth, replaying every possible outcome. Like my mind could somehow prepare me for all of them. It couldn't. Because no matter how many times I imagined it, one truth stayed the same. This would change everything. I saw again for the first time in months at my dad's house. I didn't plan it, at least not officially. But when my dad casually mentioned Adrian's stopping by later, something in me went completely still. Like my body recognized the moment before my mind caught up. This is it. I told myself to act normal. And for the first few minutes, I did. I stayed in the kitchen, pretending to help with dinner while my dad talked too loudly in the living room, his voice carrying easily through the house. Then the front door opened. And just like that, everything shifted. Man, you still don't know how to knock. My dad laughed. I've had a key longer than you've had sense, Adrian replied. Same voice, same calm tone, same effect on me. I didn't mean to look, but I did. And the moment I saw him again after all that time, I realized something I hadn't fully understood before. Time hadn't weakened this. It had sharpened it. He looked older, not in a bad way, just more defined, more settled into himself, more dangerous to someone like me who had spent years building him up in her mind. Then his eyes found mine and paused, just for a second. But it was enough. Well, he said, a small smile forming. Look who's back. Back. Like I had always belonged in the same orbit as him. Hi, I said, hoping my voice sounded steadier than I felt. It's been a while. Yeah, I replied. It has. There was something in the way he looked at me. Not inappropriate. Not obvious. But aware. Like he was seeing the difference too. Like he noticed I wasn't 15 anymore. Dinner felt like a blur. My dad talked. Adrian responded. I nodded at the right times, said just enough to seem present. But my focus, it stayed locked on him. On every glance, every shift in his posture, Every subtle moment of tension I might have imagined or maybe didn't. At some point, my dad got up to take a call. And suddenly, it was just us. Silence stretched between us. Not awkward, just heavy. "You've changed," he said finally. I tilted my head slightly. That's what happens when people grow up. His lips twitched like he almost smiled. "I didn't mean it like that." "How did you mean it?" He hesitated. That alone caught my attention. "Didn't hesitate. You're different," he said eventually. "Better or worse?" "More certain." That made my heart skip, because he wasn't wrong. "Maybe I am," I said quietly. His eyes held mine a second longer than necessary. Then he looked away first. That was new. "Your dad would lose his mind if he knew I was standing here analyzing you like this," he muttered. I took a small step closer. "Then maybe you shouldn't." That got his attention immediately. His gaze snapped back to mine sharp this time. Focused. "This is exactly what I mean," he said, his voice lower now. "You don't talk like you used to." Maybe I just stopped pretending. Another step. Not touching. Just close enough to feel the shift in the air between us. "You should be careful," he said. "Of what?" "Of where this kind of confidence leads." I held his gaze steady. "I already know where it leads." He exhaled slowly, like he was trying to ground himself. "You don't," he said. "Not with me." That was it. That was the moment. The line. The warning. And instead of stepping back, I crossed it. "I've dated other men," I said, my voice calm but unwavering. "And none of them compare to you." Silence. Real silence this time. "You shouldn't be saying that," he replied. "But it's true." "That doesn't make it right." "Why?" I asked. "Because of my dad. Or because you don't feel anything." That hit. I saw it. The shift in his expression. The brief tightening of his jaw. The way he didn't answer immediately. "I didn't say that," he said carefully. And there it was. Not a denial. Not a rejection. Just distance. My heart pounded, but I didn't let it show. "Then what are you saying?" He stepped back this time. Creating space. Rebuilding the line I had just crossed. "I'm saying this isn't something we should even be entertaining," he said. I nodded slowly. Like I understood. Like I agreed. But inside, everything had already changed. Because he hadn't said no, and that was all I needed. That night, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling just like I used to when I was 15, I didn't feel confused anymore. I didn't feel unsure. I felt focused. This wasn't a question. This wasn't a what if. This was something real. Something mutual. Something he was trying very hard to ignore. And I had spent years ignoring it too. I wasn't going to do that anymore. Next time, I wouldn't hold back. Deciding to go after something and actually doing it are two completely different things. For a few days after that night, I told myself to be patient, to let things settle, to give him space. That lasted exactly 3 days. On the 4th day, I found myself standing outside the office building where Adrian Cole worked. I had never been there before. Tall glass walls, polished floors, the kind of place where everything felt deliberate, controlled. Just like him. For a moment, I stood there, staring up at the building, questioning my own sanity. What exactly are you doing? Good question. One I didn't fully answer before walking in. The receptionist looked up as I approached, offering a polite, professional smile. "Can I help you?" "I'm here to see Adrian Cole." She typed something into her computer, then glanced back at me. "Do you have an appointment?" I smiled slightly. "No." A pause. "Then let me check if he's available." I expected him to say no. Honestly, that would have made things easier, cleaner. Instead, he said, "You can come up." Of course he did. The elevator ride felt longer than it should have. My reflection stared back at me from the mirrored walls, calm on the outside. But my heart was doing something entirely different. This was new territory. Not the feelings. The action. When the doors opened, I spotted him immediately, standing near his office door, waiting. His expression when he saw me, unreadable, which meant something was already off. "You don't usually show up unannounced," he said as I approached. His tone was neutral. "Careful." I figured I'd start, I replied. For a second, just a second, I thought I saw the corner of his mouth twitch, like he almost smiled. Then it was gone. "You should have called," he said. "Would you have answered?" A pause. "Probably not." Exactly. That earned me a look. Not annoyed. Not amused. Something in between. "Do you have a reason for being here?" he asked. "Do I need one?" "Yes." "No, I don't think I do." Silence. Then he stepped aside. 5 minutes, he said, gesturing toward his office. That was how it started. The first visit was short, careful, controlled. We talked about normal things, work, life, my dad. Nothing dangerous. Nothing that crossed any lines. But underneath it, there was tension. Thick and spoken. Growing. I told myself that would be enough. It wasn't. A few days later, I came back. This time with coffee. "You're doing this on purpose," he said, taking the cup, but not drinking from it. "Doing what?" "Showing up like this." I shrugged. Maybe I just like seeing you. You could see me at your dad's house. That's not the same. He didn't argue with that. The visits became a pattern. Not every day. Not enough to be obvious, but enough. Enough for him to start expecting it. Enough for him to notice when I didn't come. And every time, I pushed just a little further. Not physically, never crossing that line, but emotionally, absolutely. You keep your office too organized, I commented one afternoon, glancing around. It's called being efficient. It's called hiding behind control. He looked up sharply. You think you know me that well? I think I pay attention. That lingered. Another day. You always deflect when things get personal. I don't. You just did. That's not deflecting. It is when you avoid answering. He leaned back in his chair, studying me like I had just become a problem he couldn't easily solve. You've gotten bold, he said. I've gotten honest. And that was the truth. I wasn't pretending anymore. Not about anything. But the more I showed up, the more he changed. Subtly. Gradually. He started keeping his distance, physically staying behind his desk, maintaining that professional space. But his eyes, they gave him away. They lingered longer, watched more closely, tracked every movement like he was trying to stay one step ahead of something inevitable. You need to stop this, he said one evening as I stood by his desk, closer than usual. Stop what? You know what? I don't think I do. His jaw tightened. That, he said, gesturing vaguely between us. Whatever this is. I didn't move, didn't step back, didn't soften. This is me being around someone I care about, I said calmly. That's not all it is. Then what is it? Silence. Again. Always that silence when it mattered most. I took a small step closer. Not enough to touch. Just enough to make him feel it. You haven't told me to leave, I said quietly. I gave you 5 minutes. You keep letting me stay longer. Another pause. Longer this time. You're testing limits, he said. Maybe I am. That's dangerous. Only if there's something to lose. His eyes locked onto mine. Sharp, focused, intense in a way I hadn't seen before. There is, he said. And that was the moment I knew. Without a doubt. Without hesitation. Without confusion. This wasn't one-sided. It never had been. He wasn't pushing me away because he didn't feel anything. He was doing it because he felt too much. And that changed the game completely. Then maybe we should stop pretending there isn't something here, I said softly. For a second. A brief, dangerous second. It looked like he might agree. But then he stood up, creating distance, rebuilding control. This ends here, he said firmly. I held his gaze, calm, certain. No, I replied. It doesn't. And for the first time since this started, he didn't argue. There's always a moment right before something changes, when everything feels stretched too thin. Like one more word, one more step, and it all snaps. I didn't realize we were there until it was too late to step back. I showed up again. Of course I did. But this time, something felt different the second I walked into Adrian Cole's office. The air was heavier, colder, like he had already decided something before I got there. You need to stop coming here. No greeting. No pretense. Just that. I closed the door behind me slowly, studying him. He wasn't sitting this time. He was standing by the window, hands in his pockets, shoulders tight, guarded. That's not how you usually start conversations, I said lightly. I'm serious. I can tell. He turned to face me then. And whatever I had been expecting, it wasn't this. There was no hesitation in his expression. No softness. Just control. Sharp and deliberate. You're crossing lines, he said. Which ones? You know which ones. Say it anyway. His jaw tightened. I shouldn't have to. I stepped further into the room, closing the distance he had already decided to create. Then maybe you're not being honest enough, I said. That's not fair, isn't it? Silence dropped between us again, but this time, it wasn't uncertain. It was strained. I've tried to ignore this, he continued. I've tried to give you space to figure it out on your own, hoping you'd realize that it's wrong. I cut in. Yes, I shook my head slightly. That's not what I realized. His eyes flashed briefly. Annoyance, frustration, something deeper under it. I realized I'm done pretending this is something I'll grow out of. I said, I've tried. It didn't work. That doesn't mean you double down on it. It means I stop lying to myself. That's not the same thing. It is when the truth keeps showing up in the same place. He let out a slow breath, like he was trying to hold on to something slipping out of his control. You're making this harder than it needs to be. No, I said quietly. I'm making it honest. That hit. I saw it land. You think honesty makes this okay? He asked. I think ignoring it doesn't make it disappear. That's not the point. Then what is? He ran a hand through his hair, frustration finally breaking through the surface. The point is your father trusts me. There it was. Finally. Not denial. Not avoidance. The real reason. And I trust you too, I said. That's different. Why? Because I'm supposed to protect that trust. I stepped closer again, slower this time, more deliberate. And what about what you feel? I asked. His gaze snapped to mine. Sharp warning. You don't get to ask me that. I do if it affects me. It doesn't. It does if you're pretending it doesn't exist. That was it. That was the moment the control cracked. Stop, he said, his voice lower now. Not loud but dangerous in a different way. But I didn't. I've dated other men, I said, holding his gaze. I gave it real chances. I tried to move on. And every single time, I ended up back here mentally, emotionally comparing them to you. He didn't interrupt, didn't look away, didn't stop me. That's not something I can just switch off, I continued. And I'm done trying to. Silence. Heavy. Final. You shouldn't be saying this to me, he said. But I am. That doesn't make it right. Then tell me it's one-sided. That landed harder than anything else. Because this time, he didn't respond immediately. Seconds stretched. Too long. Too telling. Tell me, I repeated, softer now. And I'll walk out of here and never bring it up again. That was the closest thing to a surrender I could offer. A line drawn. A consequence. He looked at me like he was weighing something impossible. Like whatever answer he gave would cost him something. I can't, he said finally. Not I don't. Not you're wrong. I can't. My heart skipped. Because that wasn't rejection. That was restraint. Why, I asked quietly. He exhaled slowly, like he had been holding that answer in for years. Because I do feel something, he admitted. Everything inside me stilled. But it doesn't change anything, he added quickly. It makes it worse. Worse how? Because it means I have something to lose. The honesty, in that moment, it hit harder than anything else. You're not 15 anymore, he continued. And that's exactly the problem. If you were, this would be easy to shut down. But you're not. He stopped himself. I'm what? I asked. He shook his head slightly, like he wasn't going to say it out loud. Say it. Another pause. Then, quieter. You're someone I can't ignore anymore. That was the line. Not the one he wouldn't cross. The one he was already standing on. So don't, I said. For a second. Just a second. It looked like he might. But then he stepped back again. Rebuilding the distance. Reclaiming control. This doesn't happen, he said firmly. It can't. I held his gaze. Unshaken. We'll see, I replied. And this time, there was no uncertainty in my voice. Because he had already given me what I needed. The truth. After that conversation, I did something he didn't expect. I stopped showing up. No surprise visits. No coffee. No lingering conversations that stretched longer than they should. Nothing. At first, it felt wrong, like I was abandoning something I had spent years building toward. But I knew exactly what I was doing. For the first time, I wasn't chasing him. I was giving him space to confront what he had already admitted. Days passed. Then a week. Then 2. I didn't call. Didn't text. Didn't accidentally run into him. And slowly, the silence started working in my favor. Because the truth is, when you stop showing up, people start noticing your absence. I knew he would. What I didn't expect was how soon he'd do something about it. It was a quiet evening when my phone rang. I almost didn't pick up. But when I saw the name, my heart gave me away before my mind could catch up. I let it ring once more. Twice. Then I answered. Hello. Silence. Just for a second. Then, you've been avoiding me. I leaned back against the couch, forcing my voice to stay steady. I could say the same thing about you. That's different. How? I had a reason. So do I. Another pause. Longer this time. I didn't tell you to disappear, he said. I almost smiled. You told me this couldn't happen. And you decided to prove me right by walking away. I decided to respect what you said. That landed. I could hear it in the way his breathing changed slightly. That's not what I meant, he said. Then what did you mean? I asked softly. Silence again. But this time, it wasn't avoidance. It was hesitation. Can we meet? He asked. That was new. I didn't answer immediately. Let the moment sit. Let him feel the shift. Where? I asked eventually. Not my office, he said quickly. Somewhere neutral. Of course. Because his office had become something else entirely. We agreed on a quiet place, nothing crowded, nothing loud. Somewhere conversation couldn't hide behind noise. When I got there, he was already waiting. And the moment I saw him, I knew something had changed. Not in a dramatic way. Not obvious. But in the way he stood. The way he looked at me directly this time. No deflection. No distance. You came, he said. You asked. A beat passed between us. Then we sat. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Which was strange. Because we had never really struggled with conversation before. But this wasn't normal. This was something else entirely. I didn't expect you to actually stay away, he admitted. I tilted my head slightly. You told me to stop. I told you this couldn't happen. That sounded like the same thing. It's not. Then explain it, I said. He exhaled slowly, leaning forward slightly, hands clasped, like he was choosing his words carefully. I meant I didn't think you'd take a step back, he said. You've been pushing this forward for weeks, and you've been pushing it away, I replied. Yeah. Another pause. But when you stopped, he continued, it didn't feel like relief. That was the first crack. It felt like something was missing. I didn't speak, didn't interrupt, just let him continue. I kept expecting you to show up, he said. At the office, with coffee, with something. A faint, almost reluctant smile touched his lips. And when you didn't, you noticed. I finished for him. I did more than notice, he admitted. Silence settled between us again, but this time, it wasn't tense. It was honest. So what changed? I asked quietly. He looked at me for a long moment, like he was deciding whether or not to cross something he had been holding onto for too long. I stopped pretending I didn't want you there. My heart skipped. That doesn't mean this is simple, he added quickly. It's not. Your father. We'll deal with that, I said. It's not just that. Then what? He hesitated. And for the first time since I had known him, he didn't look completely in control. You matter to me, he said. More than I expected. And that makes this risky in a way I don't take lightly. I softened slightly at that. Not backing down. Just understanding. I'm not asking you to take it lightly, I said. I'm asking you to stop denying it. His eyes held mine. Steady. Searching. And if I don't, he asked. Then we go back to before, I said. Distance, silence, pretending this isn't there. That answer clearly didn't sit well with him. Is that what you want? He asked. No, I said honestly. Then why are you willing to walk away? Because I won't stay somewhere I'm not chosen. That hit hard. I saw it in the way his posture shifted, in the way his expression changed, something deeper, more certain breaking through. You're not making this easy, he said. I'm not trying to. Another pause, shorter this time, more decisive. Then he leaned back slightly, exhaling like he had just made up his mind. I don't want you to walk away. There it was, clear, undeniable. Then don't give me a reason to, I replied. His gaze didn't waver. Not this time. I can't promise this will be smooth, he said, or simple, or even smart. I don't need perfect, I said. I need real. A beat passed. Then, finally, he stopped holding back. Then this is real, he said. And just like that, everything changed. There are moments that feel bigger than everything that came before them. Telling my dad was one of those moments. For all the courage I had built up showing up at S office, refusing to back down, forcing honesty where there had been silence, this felt different. Because this wasn't just about us anymore. This was about him, my father. You don't have to rush this, Adrian said the night before. His tone steady but careful. We were sitting across from each other. The quiet between us no longer heavy, just full. I'm not rushing, I replied. I'm just not hiding. He steadied me for a moment, like he was still getting used to that part of me. You've always been like this, he asked. Like what? Certain, I smiled faintly. No, just about you. That didn't make him relax. If anything, it did the opposite. The next evening, I went home, not as a daughter dropping by, but as someone about to change the dynamic of everything. My dad was in the living room, exactly where he always was at that hour, watching something he wasn't really paying attention to. You're early, he said without looking away from the screen. I need to talk to you. That got his attention. He muted the TV and turned toward me, brows slightly drawn. That sounds serious. It is. I didn't sit. If I sat, I might hesitate, and hesitation wasn't something I could afford right now. There's something I need to tell you. I said, okay. A breath, just one, then. I'm seeing Adrian, silence. Not the kind that feels empty. The kind that fills the entire room. My dad didn't react immediately, didn't stand up, didn't get angry. He just looked at me. Really looked like he was trying to figure out if I was joking. I'm not kidding, I added. I didn't think you were, he said slowly. Another pause. How long? He asked. Not long, I replied. But it's not sudden either. His gaze sharpened slightly. What does that mean? It means this didn't come out of nowhere for me, I said. I've thought about it for a long time. That seemed to land in a way I didn't fully expect. Not anger, something closer to realization, and him. My dad asked. He didn't act on anything until now. I said honestly. If anything, he tried to avoid it. That part mattered. I could see it in the way my dad's shoulders shifted, some tension easing, even if just slightly. And now, he pressed. Now we're being honest about it. Another silence, shorter this time, more measured. Then he leaned back slightly, exhaling. You're both adults, he said. I blinked, once, that's it. I asked, that's it. Stared at him, trying to process the simplicity of that response. The lack of anger, the lack of resistance. You don't have a problem with it? I asked. He shrugged lightly. It's not my relationship to have a problem with. Relief hit me, but not all at once. It came in waves, slow, careful. Like I was still waiting for the other shoe to drop. You sure about that? I asked. He looked at me for a moment longer, then nodded. I trust you, he said. And I trust him. That should have been the end of it. Simple, clean, accepted. But something in his tone, it lingered. Later that night, after I left the room, I realized I had forgotten my phone. I went back quietly, not thinking much of it, until I heard voices. My dad's and his. I stopped. Not intentionally, just long enough to hear what I wasn't supposed to. You understand what this means? My dad was saying. His voice wasn't loud, but it was different. Lower. Sharper. I do, replied. A pause. If you heard her, my dad continued. I don't care how long we've been friends. Silence, heavy, unmistakable. You won't get a second chance. Another pause, then Adrian's voice steady. Without hesitation, I won't hurt her. Something about the way he said it. It settled something deep in me. Not because it was a promise, but because it sounded like a decision. I stepped back quietly before they could notice me. Heart steady, mind clearer than it had ever been. Because for the first time since this all started, everything was out in the open. No more hiding, no more guessing, no more pretending, just truth. And whatever came next, we would face it together. 3 months later, nothing looked the same. And somehow everything felt exactly right. Dating Adrian Cole wasn't like anything I had experienced before. There were no games, no guessing, no chasing, just clarity. But clarity didn't mean easy. The first time we went out in public, really out. Not somewhere quiet or tucked away, I felt it immediately. The looks, the double takes, the curiosity. He looks older. She looks young. Isn't that? I heard enough to know what people were thinking without them saying it directly. I glanced at him once, wondering if it bothered him, if he regretted stepping into something this visible. Don't, he said quietly, not even looking at me. Don't what? Start thinking for other people? I blinked. You didn't even hear what I was thinking. I didn't need to, he replied. That was him, always seeing more than I said. I don't care what they think, he continued, finally meeting my eyes. The only thing that matters is whether you're okay with this. I am, I said without hesitation. Then that's enough. And somehow, it was. Still, reality had its way of testing things. My friends were the first hurdle. You're serious? Lena Hart asked, staring at me like I had just confessed something unbelievable. Yes. Your dad's best friend. Yes. Since when has this been a thing? I hesitated for a second, then told the truth. A long time. That didn't make it easier for her to process. That's intense, she said finally. That's one way to put it. You're not worried, she pressed, about how complicated this could get? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Not as much as I'd regret never trying, I said. She steadied me for a moment longer, then sighed. Well, she muttered. I guess you've never been the type to do things halfway. She wasn't wrong, but the real test, that came from closer to home. My dad didn't interfere, not openly, but he watched. Not in a controlling way, just aware. Every time Adrian Cole came over, there was a subtle shift in the air. Conversations were normal. Laughter still came easily. But underneath it, there was something unspoken, a line that had been redrawn, and both of them knew it. One evening, I caught it again, not by accident this time. You're taking this seriously, my dad said, his tone neutral but pointed. I am. That's good. A pause. Because she is. I didn't step into the room, didn't interrupt. I didn't need to. I know, Adrian replied. Another pause. I mean it, my dad added. I know, he said again, firmer this time. And that was enough. What surprised me the most wasn't the tension or the adjustment. It was the quiet moments. The ones I had imagined for years but never thought I'd actually live. Like sitting across from him in the morning. Both of us half awake, coffee in hand. No pressure to fill the silence. Or the way he'd glance at me, mid-conversation like he was still getting used to the fact that this was real. You're thinking again, he said one night. I smiled. You started that habit. Yeah, he admitted. I didn't expect to be the subject of it. Too late now. He shook his head slightly, but there was something softer in his expression. Something unguarded. You're different than I expected, he said. Disappointed. No. A pause. Just didn't realize how much you'd already figured out. I leaned back slightly, studying him. And you? What about me? Did you figure this out too late? He didn't answer immediately. Then, no, he said. Just later than you. That made me smile. Because that's what this had always been. Not one-sided. Not impossible. Not wrong in the way people would assume. Just out of sync. Until it wasn't. Some people would never understand it. The history. The tension. The years of silence that turned into something real. But they didn't need to. Because in the end, it wasn't about them. It was about a feeling that didn't fade. A choice that didn't change. And to people who finally stopped pretending it wasn't there. And for the first time, that was enough.